This appeal filed by Trump's lawyers was actually filed in January of this year. The arguments came out this week. They are arguing it was politicized. But what's key to this is that because this is a state conviction, Trump can't pardon himself.
This evening, we're joined by DC reporter Anita Powell. How are you, Anita?
Well, Kate, thank you so much for having me on again.
Absolute pleasure. Now, President Trump has completed the first leg of his Asia tour. I think this Asia tour is his longest period away from the White House, isn't it, in his second administration? So it's a big deal.
Indeed, this is the longest trip he's made overseas since he was sworn in. And this is also, really important trip in that he's reaching out to members of ASEAN, which is the Southeast Asian bloc, and also members of a powerful economic bloc known as APEC. And he is set to meet with China's leader in Japan. So it's actually a three-stop tour. He did Malaysia, he did Japan, and forgive me, he's meeting President Xi in South Korea, and that's the last leg of his trip. So it's a huge trip covering a lot of issues, a lot of area, and a lot of delicate diplomacy.
Yes. So he met the newly elected Prime Minister of Japan today, heads to South Korea tomorrow. He's been heralding the signing of trade agreements with Japan on rare earth minerals, and the signing of a new it says it's a sign of a new golden age of US-Japan relations. Here is Donald Trump addressing troops on a US carrier in Japan.
Cherished alliance between the United States and Japan is one of the most remarkable relationships in the entire world. Really, there's never been anything like it. Born out of the ashes of a terrible war, our bond has grown over 8 decades into the beautiful friendship that we have. It's a foundation of peace and security in the Pacific. You see it? And I have such respect for Japan and the country. And now I have a really great respect for the new and incredible Prime Minister. And I have to say this, the first female Prime Minister in the history of Japan.
Well, smooth over how he said female. Anyway, his point is a good one. It deserves a cheer. What did he achieve? How significant is the rare earth minerals deal?
Right. So you spoke about that deal, but that deal was pretty vague and is a framework of a deal. He signed several of these agreements or memoranda of understanding while on this trip. I believe he signed them in Malaysia, and also there was one other. So this is kind of just a broadening of his stated policy and wanting to forge more connections to get the U.S. more rare earth minerals, because of course China has a lock on those. I did want to also note one other interesting thing in terms of achievements. During his lunch with the Japanese Prime Minister, the two dined on American beef and American rice. And one goal of Donald Trump has been to convince Japan to buy more American rice. And if that lunch was any indication, they seem willing. So that was notable and interesting. And also, on trips like this, when you're dealing with diplomacy at this level, every little gesture matters, especially in this part of the world where etiquette is so highly prized. So everything does matter on this trip. Yeah. And yeah, he's touted these as accomplishments.
It feels weird that Japan's buying American rice. It feels sort of wrong, doesn't it? The wrong way round, almost.
Well, I mean, they do have a rice shortage right now, as we all know. And we live in an interconnected world. So I would leave it at that.
They've also agreed a deal on tariffs, haven't they, Anita? 15%. Let's just remind ourselves, where does that sit? Japan got a good deal here.
It's across the board, and it's a little tricky to talk about tariffs because there are, of course, set-asides. But no, 15%, as you say, is a modest amount compared to what he's proposed for other countries, including countries that don't do much trade with the U.S. that have been slapped with like 50% tariffs. So no, that is probably an advantageous deal compared to what the alternative could have been for Japan. But the real bear that he has to face, or should we say the tiger, is in talks with China's leader in South Korea, because that's where all of the money is. That's where the balance of trade is. And these two leaders have to resolve this tariff impasse that they are at right now and try to forge a truce. And in return, China, of course, wants more access to high-end U.S. technology. And the U.S., one of the things that the U.S. wants very badly is for China to resume buying American soybeans. So it's kind of like a chips for beans act, I guess. But yeah, so these are some of the bigger issues, but I think everything, all of these deals really do pale in comparison to the economic challenges that he faces when he meets Xi Jinping
Yeah.
for his sixth in-person meeting with him.
Yeah, interesting. There have been rumours that he may meet the North Korean leader as well. He's in South Korea from tomorrow. The meeting with Xi isn't until Thursday. So can we fill in the gaps here? Has he got a bit of time spare? Do we know what he's up to tomorrow?
Always prepare for a surprise with Donald Trump, but I just want to share some of the things he said that are interesting. The energy he's put out around this. As he was on his way, he said, I would be interested in meeting with him if he would contact. And then he said to the media, if you want to put out word, I'm open to it. And then a day later, he said, I'm around. I'll be in South Korea, so I can be right over there, meaning the DMZ.
It's sounding desperate, Anita, now.
Well, there's more. I mean, he kind of went on and on. And he's also said, I would love to see him if he wants to, if he even gets this message, which, yeah. So Trump
it is a massive flirt game, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, it isn't all diplomacy. But what is interesting to note is that satellite imagery and people with eyes on the ground have noted that there has been some cleanup activity at the DMZ. This is the line separating North and South Korea. That could indicate, preparing for company, or it could not. So I really, with Donald Trump, stay tuned.
Okay, great stuff. All right, well, look, let's move on to government shutdown. Still going on, of course. Over 20 US states have decided to sue the Trump administration over its decision to suspend food stamps during the government shutdown. The federal food assistance benefits for low-income families are set to expire on the 1st of November because of the shutdown. Trump, here speaking in Tokyo, said because he's managed to get his big, beautiful bill passed, his administration doesn't need Congress anymore.
It really covers everything, the great, big, beautiful bill. We got everything done. I said, let's get it all done. A lot of people want to do it little, small pieces, like 9 of them, 12 of them. I said, put it all into one bill, and if we get it done, we're done for 4 years. We don't need anything more from Congress in terms of that, right, Scott? We got it all done. It was a little risky, but because if we didn't get it done, I don't know, who knows what would happen with these radical left lunatics that we have to deal with.
Just dig into that word salad for me. What's he talking about here?
I wish I knew, but basically this goes back to Trump's view of his broad and sweeping executive powers, which include, and that's kind of new for this administration, power of the purse. Just going back to that food stamp issue, because it is so important for 40 million Americans who are set to possibly lose food stamp access in just a few days, there's a little wrinkle in this story, which is that the government is obligated to keep like a rainy day fund sort of for SNAP benefits. There's about $3 billion in there, and they are required by law to dip into that money in the event of a shutdown or anything like this. They did this during the last shutdown, which Trump had, which was a record-breaking 35-day shutdown. But now the Trump administration is saying that they can't use this money. And there's not really a clear legal argument for why they think that they can't use this money. But going back to what Trump just said, he believes that he does not need Congress's mark of approval in order to spend government money. And it kind of comes down to that.
Interesting. I was reading a little bit earlier about a federal judge in San Francisco who is, let's just read it out here. So the barred the Trump administration from continuing to terminate government employees during the shutdown, extending legal protections beyond a temporary order that was scheduled to expire this week. I mean, how much of a thorn is that in Donald Trump's side?
Well, this is an issue that's been dogging the Trump administration since they first came into office and, put a number of federal employees on indeterminate amounts of leave and fired them in ways that are proving not to be quick or efficient because they are not following either the letter or the spirit of the law. So this isn't a surprising ruling coming from this judge, but I think that this really does pale in comparison for the average U.S. voter in terms of importance. Right now, this week, the talking point is SNAP benefits, which, by the way, feed 1 in 4 American children, lest we just not remember how important this is. This is very critical. And so that's taken center stage. But there are other issues that Americans care a lot more about. I mean, the immigration issue is still front and center for Americans. And also, most importantly, and I think this applies to everybody around the world, the cost of living.
Yeah, yeah, very, very true. Okay, brilliant perspective. Thank you. Let's talk Stormy Daniels, shall we? Donald Trump's
Shall
launched.
we?
Yes, please. Donald Trump's launched an appeal to overturn his conviction for falsifying business records in the Stormy Daniels hush money case. The president's lawyers submitted a 96-page filing on Monday night, arguing he was the victim of the most politically charged prosecution in our nation's history. Let's start with a quick reminder, if you don't mind, Anita, what happened with that
Right.
particular case.
DA Alvin Bragg claimed that Trump improperly disguised a $130,000 hush money payment made to adult entertainer Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet about their sexual encounter in 2006. And that was, not a proper use of campaign funding and therefore a felony. A jury convicted Donald Trump of 34 felonies, but these are felonies at the state level. This appeal filed by Trump's lawyers was actually filed in January of this year. The arguments came out this week. They are arguing it was politicized, but what's key to this is that because this is a state conviction, Trump can't pardon himself. He can only pardon people for federal convictions. And so we can call him a felon 34 times. I'm not going to repeat that word another 33 times, but you can call Donald Trump a felon right now, unless this is overturned, and then you will legally not be allowed to. Well, not legally, but like you won't be accurately allowed to call him a felon. And of course, this chafes. And he does believe it was politicized. And so that's where he stands. Who knows what is going to happen here? I don't want to predict that.
No. Okay. All right. But it is an interesting development, of course. Probably not that surprising. But look, he's certainly not afraid to pack his schedule, is he, in terms of what's on his mind and what he's physically doing in person.